did not watch my last video on this story, I did a part 1, and that was the first chapter of a story that I wrote myself. This is called The Walk. So if you'd like to watch that one, you can check out the video. The link is in the description. If not, you can definitely stick around and listen to this chapter. So this chapter is entitled 5:30. That damn blue butterfly is up to something. I'm sure of it, the traveler thought to himself. Where are the mosquitoes? I haven't seen any bugs since he ripped that little bastard to shreds. I guess there's no need to complain. I'm glad to be rid of the pests. The traveler was mounting each step with ease now, the walking stick in perfect harmony with his feet. As his left foot rose from the moist wood, so did his stick, and as it landed, so the stick followed. The strides were long and meaningful, and he was saving energy as well. He had a nice pace going, and wasn't sweating yet. There was enough antiperspirant under his armpits to stop a leaky dam from bursting, and plenty deodorant as well. As the sky continued to lose its early morning hue, rosiness appeared on his cheeks once again. He blushed when he was excited, and the chemistry between his body and the trail was quite thrilling to him. Yet again he noticed the absence of the buzzing in his ears. The sounds of morning birds and rustled vegetation were now amplified to a greater volume. Perhaps they were easier to notice without the nagging reoccurrence of mosquitoes ruining every clear thought. He didn't care why they were gone anymore. The explanation didn't matter. All that mattered to the man was his next step, and then the one after that. There was a sense of purpose involved with knowing that there was always another step to focus on, especially since his attention liked to be let loose so often. It was a shame every part of his life couldn't be so simple, just one step after another. The world seemed so scattered to him. A tiny human mind needs a defined pathway to follow, or otherwise it will be lost in the woods, fated to go around in circles forever. Thankfully, the traveler was climbing a mountain, so there was only one direction that he could go in, regardless of the pathway. Continuing upwards, the man turned a wide corner in the path and came upon a rock face. The New Hampshire mountain hiking website had mentioned that there would be some light rock climbing involved on the hike. The boulder wall was about 10 feet high, with a clear route to follow on the way up. Walking closer to the first round rock, the man threw his walking stick over the top and onto the dirt that lay above him. He grabbed a small protruding stone and lifted his weight up and onto the wall. The rocks were laid out at about a 75-degree angle, which was enough for the man to rest his body without putting all the pressure on his arms. As he moved upwards, he kept close contact with the rocks. His belly slid among them as his legs extended, then bent back into position. The fluidity of his motions allowed him to step precisely into place with each extension. Easily enough, he arrived to the top and wiped off the small bit of dirt that had gotten onto his khaki shorts. Standing upon the flat ground, he walked over to a large stick that lay in the middle of the pathway and grabbed it. He looked back down and saw the winding stairway that was behind him. Adjusting his backpack, he walked onwards down the path. It was still early. The man was fresh and alert. The coffee buzz continued to send blood quickly through his veins. The caffeine made the traveler conscious of his cardiovascular system. He could feel the machinery of his body operating at an excellent pace, each part working together with the next. It was a machine made of mush, a feature that no man-made machine could claim. Only flesh and blood operated on mushiness. It wasn't perfect, but it worked, and just like a square office is equipped with square accessories, so a round plump body needs round plump organs, and a mushy brain and stretchy skin. In a perfect world, everything would be made from mush, he thought. There could be mushy cars and mushy offices that you could bounce around in. It would be a blast. All this flatness and straightness is so wrong. It's not natural. The linear organization of it doesn't compare well to the waviness of nature. The imperfection of mush is what makes it work so well anyway. I mean, how many times? A small hummingbird silenced the man as it appeared just 10 yards away from where he stood. A few thin rays of light reflected off of its green and red feathers. He admired it as it inspected some flowers off to the side of the trail. He stopped walking and watched it move from plant to plant. A second bird joined, followed by a third. They remained close to one another and kept seemingly suspended in the air. Their Their tiny heads made small, twitchy movements while their eyes searched for nectar. The traveler wasn't certain, but he assumed that hummingbirds drink nectar. He pulled out his phone and opened his Google app. He typed into the search bar, "What do hummingbirds eat?" The first link he found said hummingbirds, nectar recipes for home feeders. The man smirked and locked the screen quickly before putting it back into his khaki pockets. He kept looking at the trio, pleased by the beauty of the scene. A second after, he reached for his phone once again, preparing for a picture. He held it in front of his face and waited for the screen to focus. Pressing down on the button, a quick flash lit up the darkened pathway. The three birds fluttered away in a panic and vanished into the trees. The traveler let out a sigh and waited for the surely botched picture to appear. Looking down at the screen, a beautiful image caught his eyes. The birds were in the center of the picture, the rays of light shining down on them. No iPhone had taken such a shot before, he was sure of it. He smiled and admired it for a few seconds before clicking the lock screen button again and sliding the phone into his pocket. Looking back to the sky, he noted the status of the sun. It was difficult to see it through the thick bunches of trees with their large colonies of leaves. He recalled the leaf at the beginning of the trail, so intricate and unique. He tried to wrap his mind around the elaborate system of veins, and the flesh and the stem. He then considered the thousands of leaves on top of the maple tree that stood before him, each leaf having its place on a branch, and every branch protruding out from a particular place on the trunk, and the trunk placing itself precisely between the other tall wooden monoliths. It was a network of life so amazing to behold. The traveler then remembered his ride through the mountains and the green sea that surrounded his car. While observing the view from inside the Chevy, he could see no leaves or branches or individual trees. There was only green. He didn't know why his little brain would belittle such a mesmerizing scene to a single color. It was an injustice to the true beauty and complexity of it all. As he got closer to the trees, he was able to respect them in a way that they deserved. But in a minute or so, the respect was lost again, as his pesky brain found another idea to drool over, and then another followed, and then another. It was impossible to expect so much from two puny eyeballs and such a distractible mind, but he wished it could be so. He knew what a leaf looked like, and he knew what a tree looked like. Why wasn't it easier to piece the two together? Deciding to decipher this mystery, the traveler focused on his eyesight. He saw the sun as a large churning fireball instead of a round yellow orb. He had remembered clips of solar flares from a television show on the History Channel, and he used those as the imagery in his mind. He zoomed in to the ground level, where the insects crawled through the grass and the worms wiggled in the dirt below. Up in the canopy, he saw a hawk scanning the tree line with its large eyes. It saw twice as much as the man ever could, and was more focused, too. The bird was more skilled at hunting and could see a small mouse over 1,000 feet away, while the man couldn't see one that was stood right in front of him. He imagined that the mouse was scurrying around the forest floor, sniffing out for food. "What do mice eat, anyways?" the man questioned. He grabbed for his phone and Googled the query. He tapped the first link with his finger. In nature, mice will eat mostly vegetation. He stopped reading, clicked the power button, and returned the phone to his pocket. Jumping back to his first train of thought, the man entered the eyes of the mouse once again. It was gathering all kinds of scents, many that the man had never encountered before. His large, cumbersome nose was useless compared to that of the mouse. He walked through the forest and smelled only his own deodorant and bodily stench. The mouse, however, could detect its favorite leafy green meal and the odors of other animals it knew to stay away from. The mouse was much better in many ways. It was unfortunate that it took until this moment for the man to realize it. He discovered a new admiration for the mouse, and deciphered the mystery which he had arrogantly questioned just a minute earlier. His human eyes focused back onto the pathway, where they felt comfortable once again. His two legs walked forward as a humble feeling overtook him. Thank you guys once again for listening to part 2 of The Walk. Again, this is a story that I have been writing fairly recently. It's still not completely finished, as I said before, but this has been part 2. If you are interested in the rest of the story and you did watch part 1, Just to kind of give you a little bit of heads up, the story is not super long. Um, it may seem that, just because we're only 2 chapters in, that this might be an entire novel. It's actually not. It's going to be more of a short story type of thing. But as I said, it's not completely finished. So I'm still working on that, but it won't be too long. I wanted to leave you with this picture. This is another photograph of Mount Lafayette, which is a real mountain in New Hampshire, where the setting is inspired by, and it's just a very beautiful place. This is actually from Mount Washington, which is the tallest mountain in the Northeast. It is the location of the highest wind speed in the history of Earth, since they have been recording wind speed. I believe the record is like 270 miles an hour. That wind speed was recorded at the top of Mount Washington. So this picture is from Mount Washington. Lafayette's right next to it. So you can kind of cheat when you hike these mountains, and you can go from one top to the other, and you can kind of count that as being, oh, I hiked 2 mountains today, when really you didn't. You just kind of walk between them. So there's a lot of like these ridges in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's a very beautiful place. This is actually the state that I grew up in. I love it. It's very beautiful. Very, in the fall time, it's just amazing here in New Hampshire. So if you have the chance to visit, I would definitely recommend it. Of course, if you're not into nature, they may not be too much for you to do. I wouldn't say it's the most bustling state in the country, but it does have a lot. And down in the southern part of the state, there's a lot of good cities to check out, especially near like the seacoast. So that is it. That is the end of part 2. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.